Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road. Jack Nerad with you. We're in Savannah, Georgia, and we're getting the opportunity to drive a really interesting vehicle, the new Ioniq 9, a three-row vehicle, all-electric vehicle. We have a product expert, Ravinowich, has been with us before. Thanks so much for being with us. And tell us from the 35,000-foot level about this vehicle.
This is our new three-row EV SUV. It's the latest addition or extension of our Ioniq lineup. So same platform as our Ioniq 5 and 6. But it's a family SUV. It's a great space car. It's got a really great interior capabilities, both second and third row, which I think in some cases even more important third row, right? You actually want to, if you have a car that has three rows, you gotta be able to actually use them, right? So I think it's a good all-around car. Family SUV, like I said, Focus happens to be a great EV. Large battery, great range, a lot of really nice capabilities.
Let's talk about interior space. This is a vehicle that has a long wheelbase, but it's not really long.
Yeah.
But the electric platform, I think, allows a ton of interior space. Tell about that a little bit.
Yeah, so being an electric car, right, and being a dedicated EV platform, we can maximize that wheelbase, like you said, focus on just delivering good interior space, right? We don't have to make the car even longer to account for that. Being a EV platform also has things like a flat floor, right? So you can do things like a sliding console. You can move that second and third rows around depending on how much space you need for cargo or for people. So it's a lot of really good flexibility, I think, is probably
Yeah, you kind of have that flat playing field that you don't have when you have an internal combustion engine vehicle, right? Where you have tunnels and things, all kinds of stuff going through the interior of the car.
Yeah. Yeah, and it allows us to, as we said, like maximize space. And I think on a car like this, if you're gonna pay for a car that has three rows, you gotta, obviously be able to use them and use them well, and still have room for cargo in the back, which I think is a great attribute of this car.
So it's a three-row vehicle. Tell us about the seating configuration.
Yeah, so on depending on the trim, most of them are, or I should say, about half of them are going to be a 7-passenger configuration. So you have, 2 in the front, the bench, the 3-person bench in the second, and then the 2 in the rear. And then as you move up to the higher trims, we move to a captain's chairs on the second row. So they're power captain's chairs, a little bit more, premium feel and a little bit more kind of customization to the seating capability. You lose that seat in the middle, but obviously you gain that kind of nicer.
Let's dive into the seating, because there's a lot of really upscale kind of seating options on this vehicle, right?
Yeah, so this is the first car where we have what we call the relaxation seats. So both on the front row and second row, these can go almost horizontally, not vertically, I should say, horizontally, give you kind of a nice kind of relaxing.
They're not like the electric chair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the opposite way.
Yeah.
Give you a nice place to be if you want to, wait for the car to charge, or if you're at a kid's sporting event, you kind of want to have a nice space to kind of take some time off inside the car. Some capabilities, like for example, the center console in the middle can be able to slide between the front row and the second row, give people access to things, right? If you have kids in the back that are obviously sat there with seatbelts, they can, you can slide that console back. They can get closer to the HVAC controls. They can, there's a tray underneath you can get snacks and things out of. So some good.
My wife loves those storage areas where she can, put her purse, put other things. She travels a lot heavier than I do, I think, and I think a lot of women do.
Yeah, and in a family car like this, right, storage is everything, right? So cup holders and little nooks and crannies and pockets everywhere, and that's the great thing about this car, right? Again, not only a larger three-row car like this, but being an EV, we're able to kind of maximize that storage, right?
One of the things I noticed when I was looking at, and you were showing the information about the rear space, the rear cargo area is, I think, about as big as the Ford Expedition behind the third row. I mean, that's pretty sizable space, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's always sometimes a tricky part of some other three-row products, right?
Yeah.
When you are using that third row, well, then you can put a small little cooler behind, right?
Yeah.
This one, there's some
a lot of times you'll have maybe 12 cubic feet or something like that behind that third row. It's 21.6.
Yeah, 21.6. Oh, there you go. You remember that number?
I do. Yeah, I remember that number pretty well.
But yeah, it's a significant amount of space. I was able to kind of play around with I have one child or one kid. I'm about to have a second, so I was playing around. Can I fit 2 strollers in the back of the car? And it's pretty easy to do with the space that's in the back.
Well, when we're talking about the interior, certainly infotainment is very, very important. I don't know that you're really breaking new ground here, but you're kind of using what has really worked in other Hyundai products. Tell us about that, the infotainment, the instrumentation, all of that.
I think that's something that Hyundai does a really great job of, right, is kind of optimizing our technology and capabilities, right? We want to a lot of times be at the forefront of things, but we also make sure it works well and it's easy to use and it's customizable and it's, there's enough like horsepower, for the lack of a better word, to those platforms, for example, right? So you're not going to have any laggy screens or content. This setup, it's a two 12.3-inch screens that almost look like one single screen, right? They're kind of behind the same kind of plane, a nice kind of curve to it. Standard navigation on a car like this we felt was important. Of course, with an EV, right, being able to find your charging stations is obviously key a lot of times. So a lot of really great just general infotainment capability. This will be the first product in our lineup that multimedia system can be, I guess, in a way customized over the air. You have the ability to download and purchase, for example, different themes. So eventually down the line we'll have more partners or more things. But initially we have the ones the two that we're launching with initially. One is going to be kind of like a nature kind of a focus. So it ties to kind of that kind of family kind of outdoor experience, and kind of gives the whole car a visual of nature. And then the other one is it's a throwback to our one of our initial products, which is the Hyundai Pony. So you can get kind of this little bit of a retro feel to the interior of the car, which I think is kind of cool and different.
Any voice control to the infotainment system?
Yeah, we have voice, obviously, traditional voice recognition in the car. This car actually also has a little bit of AI intelligence to the cloud voice version of it. So if you are, which I hope most customers do, sign up for our BlueLink connected car platform, you'll get that cloud voice recognition that uses some AI.
And there's really no reason not to sign up for BlueLink because it's free for the entire first ownership period, which I think Hyundai really steps forward with that versus a lot of other manufacturers.
Yeah, that was a decision we made about a year or so ago to kind of make sure that we deliver the features to customers and not, I hate to say like nickel and diamond, but not kind of charge for things that we can do at a good cost, right, and still deliver that really strong capability to people and not have to charge extra. Especially on an EV, I think that's pretty important, right? So be able to do things like your charging scheduling and your route planning and your sending stations to charging stations to the head unit of the car. You can do all that in the owner app, and then have that ready to go.
It's probably something you're using much more often in an EV, I guess, than you would in a conventional vehicle, right? Because because of the EV nature of the vehicle.
Yeah. And that adds, to me, one of my personal favorite features of the car is digital key, right? That's part of that platform as well. On the trims that have that digital key functionality, the ability to kind of just use your phone for everything is kind of nice. We're not quite where other countries are with doing everything on your phone, but we're obviously with things like mobile wallets and California, where I live now, I found out the other day you can have a digital driver's license and being able to drive your car. We're almost 80% of the way there.
We're getting there.
You can go out of the house with nothing but your phone and be okay.
Well, let's talk about the EV nature of this vehicle, right? I mean, I think one thing that jumped out at me is you have one battery size. With a lot of vehicles, it's like this battery, that battery, this battery goes with this battery configures that, and it's, I think, probably pretty confusing for the consumer. This a lot less confusing and a lot of range no matter what you picked. Walk us through all of that.
That was something we wanted to be a key premise of this car, right? Is try to remove some of those kind of barriers for people that are considering EVs. And having that single 110.3 kilowatt hour battery was one way to do that and deliver not just obviously on the base trim great range, but then all the way to the top of the lineup still stay above that 300 mark, right? Which I think is, there's a lot of studies that showed that's kind of almost like a benchmark for people, not necessarily people that own EVs, because some of those are a little bit more comfortable with lower range, right? Once you get used to the idea of having EV, but to get into the space of EVs, I think that's kind of almost like a mental kind of barrier or benchmark is that 300 number. So I think on a car of this size is good to have the capability for
you have that 300-mile range, and then you have the superpower of 800-volt charging. Walk our listeners through that.
Yeah, I think that's something that's probably the biggest or most important attribute of the platform for our EVs is that 800-volt platform. That allows us the ability to have not just for short periods of time that high charging power and rates, but sustain those rates for longer, I think, than some others. And deliver, for example, in the case of this car, you can charge the battery, depending on the network you use, in as little as 24 minutes from 10 to 80%.
Right.
So
it kind of future-proofs the car too, right? I mean, in some ways, the car is smarter than the charging infrastructure in the United States.
Yeah, there's some that works,
more capable, right? I think it allows as the infrastructure gets better, as we assume it will, maybe it will, it seems to be getting better day in and day out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, over time, and then more and more of those capable chargers are out there. You can do that, and I think like I said, with that ability to kind of get that charging rate up and then stay. Even things like, for example, you can do a quick fill, right? In a way, so you can do in 15 minutes, you can get another 150 miles out of the car, which is pretty capable on this vehicle compared to some of the other competitors. If you're on the trip, maybe that 150 miles is all you need to get to where you're going.
Maybe that 15 minutes is all you want to spend while you're on that trip too.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Let's talk about styling of this vehicle. Ioniqs have been known to be kind of out there a little bit, kind of spaceship-like in a way. I mean, certainly futuristic. It strikes me that you've dialed that back a little bit on this vehicle. Am I right? And was that conscious?
I mean, it has. I think it still has a pretty interesting dynamic look to it. I think a lot of people see, you look at the side silhouette of the car and kind of how it tapers towards the back. Obviously, it's that kind of focus on aerodynamics, right? We were talking earlier about range. That's one way to obviously get there, is having that exterior design that's focused on delivering aerodynamics. Doesn't mean the interior is small. We talked earlier about space. Right. Even with that kind of tapered look to the roof, it still have really great headroom in the third row. I'm 6'1", and I spent throughout this week here, I spent a couple days riding in the back third row just for fun to try, and it's totally comfortable. I can do a 5-hour trip, no problem, in the back of the car. But I think that the exterior design itself is. In a way, it tries to convey this kind of image of simplicity and I guess welcomeness to the design, but still has some really strong elements. And you'll see if you drive the car. I noticed this week was a good experience for us even that work on the car to see the car from different perspectives. Right? Most often we're driving, we're not behind somebody else driving. So seeing the car on the road here. You notice kind of the really wide, strong shoulders the car has, the wide 285 rear tires. I mean, it's got really strong presence. So even though it's kind of a more, I don't say subdued design, it's a little bit more of a cleaner, simpler design. It still has a lot of strong kind of capable.
Well, and Ioniq is a brand within the brand, right? Yep. And the pixel theme is something that has been throughout all Ioniqs, I think. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a little bit. It's funny because. I kind of have a running joke that if you can tell me how many pixels are on this car, I'll give you an award. And I heard the number is closer to like 600 or something between exterior and interior. There's quite a lot of little small details to the design. I think that's something that I love about working with our designers is how much attention they pay to even the smallest little things like the switches and dials, still carrying that kind of pixel theme, for example. And the idea of the pixel is, if you listen to some of the exterior designers of the car, they'll talk about the simplicity of the pixel. And the fact that it's such a simple shape that a lot of us associate with things like earlier video games, or we associate with everything digital, but executed in a way that makes it seem, I guess, exciting for people or modern. Yeah. But still throwback to that kind of like simple times or simple ways of life when just a single pixel can mean a lot. So. Right.
And it carries through all the Ioniq lines, it makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
It is a stock question of mine, so forgive me, but I always ask, what most excites you about this vehicle? Where do you think this is really a step ahead versus some of the other vehicles out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall kind of experience of it, right? Adding all these different components. We talked about BlueLink with digital key, and one of my personal favorite features, which is the vehicle to everything, right? You have the ability to use that big battery. You have a big battery that's sitting in your driveway, 7-8 hours a day. You might as well use it for other use cases, right? So having the ability to kind of use that two-way power, or I should say, capability of our powertrain. To use that big battery, for example, to power your house or sell energy back to the grid. I think there's a lot of things that when people start seeing the more and more as products like this have this type of capability, that EVs can be an extension of your life, can be an extension of your house, can be an extension of, they're not just a vehicle.
How complicated is that to do?
I don't know, of course, a ton of the technical details behind it, but I think a lot of it is a combination of our EV platform as a whole already has that kind of two-way capability, right? And even in Ioniq 5 and 6, we have that V2L or vehicle to load ability. Yeah. This kind of takes that to a step more, and then when you add the hardware in the house, right? So it's not just a vehicle, obviously you have to have the hardware, the right type of charger at home to do the two-way bidirectional element of it. If it was simple, I think everybody would be doing it.
Right,
I don't fully know the amount of work that goes behind. I think that's the great part about product planning. We get to spend time with the R&D teams and learn about some of these things. But
before I let you go, tell us briefly about pricing, just kind of top to bottom.
So our rear-wheel drive trim starts around 58,000, I believe, somewhere around that, and then we top out it at 76,500 for the top calligraphy design trim that we have. So the idea is kind of have a nice kind of wide spectrum of pricing that you can still get into the space if you want a three-row EV SUV. But if you want something, a little bit, the more kind of premium aesthetics, you have that kind of calligraphy execution that we have in across our many models in our lineup. That kind of like that ultimate expression, right, of both tech and the materials, in a way.
All built here in America, very near where we are sitting right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Andrei Ravinowich, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back right here on America on the Road.